What's up, guys? I'm just kind of getting my backpacking gear together, and I figured I'd do a quick video kind of going over the contents of what's going to be in my pack. It's currently the beginning of spring. It's actually Easter weekend, and it's, you know, I actually mainly wanted to just go on a day hike, not necessarily an overnight trip. But originally, my coworker, who I was supposed to go on the day hike with, he had some family obligations because of Easter, and he couldn't go. And so I asked one of my other friends, and it became like an impromptu overnight trip. We're gonna start, it's around noon right now. We're probably gonna start really late. Probably not gonna get to the trailhead until like 6:30, and then we're gonna basically kind of dusk to night hike into an area to set up camp, and then we'll probably get up tomorrow, mess around a bit around the camp area, and then head back because he has some family obligations that he has to take care of on Sunday. So, you know, this kind of just a gear check, and mainly for me to make sure that I have everything I need. I'm very bad with organizing stuff when I need to go out on trips and stuff. I always leave things to the last minute, and that tends to lead to me forgetting stuff. I'm doing this offhand, so the camera work's probably going to be a little shaky. We'll start over here. Over here, this is basically going to be my food and water for this overnight trip. Probably a little overkill, but, you know, I'm not really sure of the area that we're going to be going to. So I have a platypus hoser hydration pack. I never used to be a huge fan of hydration bladders, but, you know, they are quite convenient. The thing I don't like about them is that, you know, while it's great for you to keep track of, while it's great that it's easy to drink when you're on the go and it keeps you hydrated, I find the biggest problem with hydration bladders is it's really hard to tell how much water you have left when you're on the move. You know, versus something like if you were to go use like an Nalgene that I have here. You know, as you finish an Nalgene, if you have to refill it from a larger container, you keep a constant eye on how much water you have left. You know, versus something like this with the platypus, it's in the back of your pack, hidden away from sight. You don't really have to stop to refill any water bottles or anything when you're on the go. And, you know, it's great that you drink more water, but unfortunately, if you get to a place where there isn't really a water source that's readily available, like the last trip I went on, then you end up kind of drinking too much and you don't really ration well enough. So that's why this time I'm bringing a 1 liter Nalgene, like my friend did last time. The last trip we did, it was also an overnighter. We went to an area where normally there should be plenty of water, but he forgot that during that season there was basically no water. So I only brought 3 liters in the platypus, and by the time we hit the nighttime, you know, it was a relatively warm day. I probably had like half a liter of water left, and then the hike back was basically a real struggle. And then we ended up like making a detour to like a stream, you know, a possible stream, and ended up being like really basically filled with sediment, with clay and stuff. It actually ended up clogging two of his filter systems, and unfortunately he had a Sterapen, so we ended up just using a Sterapen to get, you know, some more water to kind of rehydrate ourselves before we made the final push back towards where we had parked the car at the trailhead. And that detour it was kind of a risk because I think we had like 3 miles to hike back when we ran out of water before we made it to the car, and the detour was like a mile away, and fortunately there was a bit of water, so you know, we weren't completely miserable once we got to that water source. I'm also gonna have food, my preferred backpacking food, Mountain House, you know, freeze dried, nice and lightweight. You do have to carry the water for it, but, you know, if you do go to a source where you have a ready water source, that's not a big deal, and you don't necessarily have to carry the water weight of food with you. That's a bit of an overkill. It's going to be dinner for tonight, and lunch for tomorrow, and then a spare just in case. I also have sport beans, goo, and a cereal bar. The cereal bar will probably be breakfast for tomorrow. I don't really like, you know, I don't really like solid foods as snacks when I'm on the go, just because it kind of takes a little too long. you know, sometimes it's kind of hard to like swallow. You gotta constantly drink water with it. You know, the chewing involves a lot of effort. So when I'm moving on to go in terms of energy, I like stuff like this because it's really easy to consume, it's really quick, and you do get a decent amount of calories and a burst of energy from it. Here's my water filter, a Catadine Hiker. I'm only bringing one purification system with me because my friend is going to have 2 others, so there's no point in me bringing anything redundant. The hosing I have kind of draining because I just rinsed out the system this morning. I haven't used it in a couple of months, and I just washed the pouch. And then I have a titanium mug, which I just washed. Not a Snow Peak, it's some other brand that's made in like China or whatever called Tokes. Half the price of Snow Peak, works just as well. It's a 450 milliliters, just under what they recommend for a regular sized mountain house, but I do find that when you use the recommended amount of water, you end up having a lot of excess liquid in the bottom of the bag that you kind of have to drain out sometimes. So this is perfect size for one mountain house. You know, maybe it'll be a little on the dry side, but whatever, it's not a big deal. And also titanium spork, and that's basically the food and water. Over here I have shelter, clothing. Right now what's missing is a fleece and a tent that I have with my friend. It's not currently at my apartment right now, but the fleece is just like an REI Woods fleece. It's like a medium weight fleece, and the tent is an REI T2 quarter dome. Over here I have my sleeping bag. This is like a cheap Ledge 45 degree synthetic bag. I think the day temperature today is going to be around 65 degrees, and then at night it'll probably drop to just above freezing, but at elevation it'll probably go below freezing. So this probably isn't necessarily enough for the season that we're hiking in, because, you know, recently, even though it is the beginning of spring, we actually had like hail and snow last week. It is a little on the cold side, but I should be okay in terms of bundling up with, here I have a Patagonia Nano Puff, along with the fleece. It should be okay. I am also considering carrying a merino wool sweater that I have, a hoodie. I'm undecided on that yet. For a sleeping pad, I have a Big Agnes Air Core. This in here is a Patagonia Houdini. This is basically going to be my shell, my wind and water shell for the Nano Puff and the fleece. I don't really expect rain, because if I did think it would rain, then I would just bring my hard shell, which is a minimalist, minimalist. But the weather says it's supposed to be clear, no rain, so I don't really want to carry too much bulk and weight. So this basically is like a 2-ounce jacket. It protects against wind really well, and it's relatively water resistant with DWR. And then here I have merino wool buff. And a hat, a synthetic acrylic watch cap. Like I said, it's probably going to get cold at night, so this will definitely come in handy. I also carry a cap with me. I think this is an Outdoor Research Swift, or actually the Swift might be REI's name for this version of their hat. It's basically a very lightweight hat, has a really stiff bill, and the top is all mesh, which is great for breathing, and then it also has like a very thin piece of fabric here to block sun from hitting the top of your head. This is great because it blocks out sun from your eyes, and it also kind of wicks away at sweat so it doesn't just roll down all over your face. Here I have some spare clothing. I have a synthetic underwear, an extra undershirt, synthetic undershirt, and also, you know, my favorite socks for hiking in the 3 seasons. These are REI merino wool lightweight hiker socks. They're perfect because even in the summer they're not excessively hot. They wick away moisture from your feet relatively well. They're very cushiony, which is nice, kind of helps prevent blisters. And you know, they're not necessarily the best for winter, but they'll do. If I ever go out there in the winter, these will still be the socks that I hike in, and then when I actually set up camp, I have expedition weight merino wool socks for when I'm sleeping in the tent at night and my feet are going to get cold. And also I have a camp towel. It's like the smallest size REI camp towel that they make, just for, you know, washing your face and stuff, cleaning my glasses, and all of that's going to go into this Sea to Summit stuff stack. And then we have here is a very pretty basic toiletry kit. I'm not going to go through it item at a time, but in here I have toilet paper. I have some Wilderness Wash, which is a biodegradable soap. I also have some wet wipes and also some baby wipes just to kind of like wash up my face at the end of the day after like sweating and stuff. It's kind of nice and refreshing, and it's great if you don't necessarily have spare water. I also have a pair of contacts. I wear glasses. I don't wear contacts very often. I have kind of bad astigmatism, so you know I need toric contacts, which are kind of a pain to use. And I do have excessively dry eyes, so wearing contacts for me isn't that great. But I did get a prescription and a few boxes of them, purely for when I am gonna do some kind of sport where glasses would kind of get in the way, and I don't have prescription goggles. And I also like to carry a pair of contacts with me instead of a spare set of glasses because they're a lot smaller. My vision's not that great. And if I didn't have my glasses, if something happened to them, they got lost or they got broken on the trail, I could walk around, but not, you know, things would be very blurry. Like I can't really, I can't really see maybe past like a foot, you know, everything past the foot is out of focus. The contacts are great. I could just quickly sterilize my hands either with the soap or the wet wipes and just pop the contacts in until I could get back to my car. And then I also have some small patches of gauze, sterile gauze, moleskin for blisters, and also some Imodium. And over here I have spare trash bags. Nice, you know, kind of put your garbage at, you know, like the Mountain House stuff. When you're done with it, you put it in here. It keeps it separate from the rest of your pack so it doesn't get everything super dirty. Over here is going to be knives I'm bringing. I'm not an ultralight backpacker by any means, you know, and I'm not a super experienced backpacker either. It's just something that I like to do on my spare time. It's a fun hobby. So for me, when I go either on a day hike or an overnight or an extended trip or whatever, car camping, I always like to have a fire. For me, that's just kind of part of camping. And I feel like it's not really camping unless you go collect firewood and make a fire, regardless of how small it is. So here I have a Bako Laplander, it's a folding saw. And then I have two knives that I got recently. This is a SE Hunglis, and this is a Swamp Rat Knife Works Ratmandu. This is nice and sharp. Obviously, it came from SE's factory that way. I haven't tested it yet. The Ratmandu factory edge really sucked. I kind of re-beveled it a little bit and resharpened it. It's still not as sharp as I would like to be. I'm not really sure if I'm going to bring this yet. It is, you know, added weight, and it's not like this Hunglis isn't heavy enough as it is. And I probably don't necessarily need a medium-sized fixed blade because these two will do wood processing just as well. And then for smaller tasks, I'm gonna carry like a folding knife in my pockets. So this may not come with me. I also like to carry, this is a DMT diafold. One side is coarse and one side is fine diamond for sharpening. You know, equipment maintenance on the field is very important. It's, you know, I normally use ceramics as well as larger diamond bench stones when I'm sharpening at home. But for in the field, you know, I don't necessarily, when I'm maintaining it, I don't necessarily need to have really polished edges that the ceramics offer me. So this is great because with the coarse side, I can take out any damage, any chips or whatever to the steel edge, and then the fine side just kind of hones it up, polishes it a little bit more, makes it cut a little better. And then over here is some miscellaneous gear. I have some paracord. This is useful for hanging up bags for your food at night, you know, in case of critters and bears and stuff. You don't want them visiting your tent. I have another piece here that I used last time as an extension because I set up my tent in a pretty rocky area where like a good portion of what was underneath my tent was like a boulder. So the guy lines for the tent stakes weren't quite long enough, so I cut this up to use as an extension. I also have SOL emergency bivy, just in case. It's not that heavy, it doesn't take up that much room, and it, you know, it's supposed to keep you relatively warm, which you never know what's going to happen. So it's always good just to carry an emergency shelter, which in this case, this is what it would be used for. Here I have my stove system. I use a MSR Pocket Rocket. I've had this for many years. It works really well, boils water fast. You know, it's kind of a big system. I thought about going to a smaller, like titanium stove, but I just haven't gotten around to it. This was only $40 when I bought it. It works just fine. And then I also have a 4-season isobutane for the stove. Here I have in this small Still Nice Sea to Summit sack is the fire stuff. So I have my emergency blast match. I also have waterproof matches from REI, and also I think an emergency whistle just in case. Oh, and a big lighter for lighting the stove. I like to carry hand warmers. Even when I'm hiking in the winter, you never know, you may kind of, people hike during the summer, and if they're not kind of new to it, they don't really understand that when you go up into, into high elevation, at night it can still get pretty cold. So I like to carry just 2 sets of emergency hand warmers. If it gets too cold in my tent, in my sleeping bag, like I said, it's probably going to drop below freezing up in the mountains, and my bag is only a 45-degree bag, which means it's probably more comfortable at like 55 or 65 degrees. So, if it gets excessively cold, then I could just throw these into my sleeping bag and help warm me up. I have a compass. This is a Suntu A10. I don't have the accompanying maps that would go with this compass. My friend owns the maps. I don't personally hike that much, so I don't really have a huge collection of maps like he does. And he also has the GPS that we're going to use. We're basically going to be following the Appalachian Trail, and it's blazed out quite well, but it's always good to have the GPS and the compass and map in case of emergencies. Like last time when we ran out of water, I didn't know the area. We just referenced the map to see where possible water sources would be, and got to water. Here I have 2 spare 123A batteries in like a little nylon holder for the belt. This I'll probably just strap somewhere to one of the strappings of the bag. And then the lighting, finally, I'm going to be carrying a Nitecore EX10. It's not the brightest flashlight, it's not the lightest flashlight in the world, but it works quite well. It outputs just over 100 lumens on high, I believe. This flashlight's like 6 years old now, or 6 or 7 years old actually. But it works well. It's something that I wouldn't lose sleep over if I were to lose in the woods. It has a very low mode, and I like having the option to ramp the brightness to different settings, because I don't necessarily need super bright light all the time when I'm hiking out at night. If you generally go hiking at night, you can use like the moon and stars to kind of brighten up your path, but it does help even on the lowest mode. You can move around at night relatively well, and the battery life is quite good on the low modes and on the high modes, and that's why I carry it. And plus I have 2 sets of extra batteries anyway. Here I have some alkaline AA's. This goes with the headlamp I'm using. This is a Rayovac Sportsman something. It works well. I don't really have any fancy headlamps. I probably should get one. I've been thinking about getting a Petzl Tika RXP, but I haven't gotten it in time for this trip yet. This works okay. It's relatively water resistant. It's lightweight. It has 2 red LEDs, a blue LED, and also a main Luxion star that has a diffuser here, as you can see. And then if you remove the diffuser, it's quite a small hotspot, and it throws out quite a good amount of distance. So I mainly only use this when we set up camp, not necessarily when we're hiking and walking around, unless I need both hands. And with the diffuser off, it kind of has like optics in there, and it throws really well in the woods. And then for up close work, I can just put the diffuser on there, and it works really well. It diffuses the light really nicely, and gives me obviously the option of using both my hands to do whatever I have to do in camp, and I don't necessarily need to hold on to a flashlight. And then finally, it's my bag. This is basically a Kelty Redwing 50. It's one of the older versions. The newer version of the Kelty Redwing looks a lot more like a backpacking style backpack. This I kind of like just because it looks more like a book bag. It's a very large book bag, but it doesn't have that same like cocoon sleek shape as the new Redwing does. I got this mainly as a day pack, but this can serve as an overnight pack. I basically fill it up. Considering I don't have a lot of lightweight, super lightweight backpacking gear, this pack gets filled up by everything that I would need for an overnight trip. And then if I were gonna do an extended trip, I would basically have to go to a bigger bag. My friend Steve, he's really into the ultralight stuff, so he has like a 30-liter or 35-liter bag, and he can use that on extended trips. Just because, you know, he has like a down sleeping bag, it stuffs up a lot smaller. His tent's a lot smaller. His sleeping pad is a lot smaller. Me, not an ultra lightweight backpacker by any means, so I don't have any of that gear. So I just kind of deal with it and carry the excessive weight. It's a good bag. It's really comfortable. It's not the lightest weight bag, and when it's empty, but it's definitely not heavyweight. It does have a very comfortable belt strap, which is important. Kind of gets the weight off your back and shoulders and onto your hips. So I like it. I also got it on sale for like $65, so I can't complain. And yeah, that's basically it. Other than what's in front of me here, like I said, I'm gonna also have my fleece and my tent when I meet up with my friend. And also on my person, I'll have synthetic pants, a synthetic shirt on. And in pockets will be probably a folding knife, my cell phone for emergencies and probably pictures, and also my wallet and keys. Keys I'll more than likely throw into the bag. Well, you know, once I get to the trailhead, I'll strap it into one of the pockets of the bag so it's not jangling around in my pockets. So yeah, that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and